All right, quick and dirty version of what happened with my frunk, and then I'm going to tell you how to fix it, okay? If you've got a frunk that's stuck open, there's a reason why. I'll give it to you. Here's what happened. My son, ball player, him and his friend, teammate, ball player, decided to lay down in the frunk with the lid open, of course, and watch a ball game because the truck was in a shaded area. They thought, this is great. Dad, I'll borrow the keys, open the frunk, lay down, watch a ball game. What you don't realize about your frunk computer, your computer in general in your vehicle, is that the frunk can forget that it's open. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting, weird feature of the Ford F-150 Lightning. It's the same I've heard on a couple of other models on other cars, so it's not just the F-150. But the frunk, if somebody leaves it open for a very long time, in which case they did because they were watching a game, they weren't horsing around, didn't play with the lid, didn't play with the buttons, didn't play with the latch or any of the power outlets. They just had it open. They were sitting in it, had it open, watched the game. But the computer forgets that the frunk is open. Now, this is a little bit of a glitch, obviously, because the problem is when you hit the frunk button to close it, because it thinks the frunk was already closed, it releases the latch, and then the latch goes back into place after it releases it. And then as the frunk lid is coming down, it actually has a closed latch because it thinks it was opening the frunk, not closing it. And the latch does not catch. You can't close the frunk. It just bounces back up because there's a latch in the way. You try to manually do it, it bounces back up, or you can't quite slam it down because the latch is shut. So let me show you. Let me show you how this works, what we did to solve this problem, a couple of solutions to drive as well. Obviously, you got to be safe. I'm going to give you what we did. Up to you whether you do it. Let's look. So for me, it's hit this button 2 times, and the frunk will open. All right, now you can see, since this situation happened, I don't store things in here. Okay, and the reason is because if this is going to get stuck open, I have a real problem. So let's take a look at what happened. Now, obviously, I'm just traumatized by it. I will eventually use this again. But this is how they had it. So they were sitting here, and they were laying in this area here, threw down a blanket and watched a ball game out here. This is soccer, but you get the picture. Okay, so they were sitting here, laying here, watching. So if this stays open for a long period of time, this frunk thinks it's closed, even though it's actually open. You can actually see some of the damage that happened from me trying to slam this the time that it was open, because there's this latch here. Well, this isn't the latch, of course. This is what the latch hooks onto when the frunk locks, okay? So when it locks, it comes down and it latches down here. Now, this latch is currently open because we don't have an issue. But what happened was the latch was closed, okay? So there is an opportunity to fix this pretty easily, and here's how it works. So normally when this happens, you're going to see when the front closes, it's just going to lock itself, okay? So let's take a look at what proper operation looks like. All right, so we're just going to hit this twice again. In theory, the frunk should go down and lock as normal. And it did, okay? So when it properly latches, your frunk is closed and it's not going to go up. Okay, and so what was happening when mine didn't latch in that spot, or it only partially latched, or the latch was kind of like stuck, this you can see is not flush any longer, or you would see in this case would not be flush any longer. It's open a little bit. The latch is actually partially connected, so you think you can drive with it and you really can't. The actual frunk will fly open. I can tell you that from experience. It'll actually open even on a little residential street like this. So how do we solve this problem? Let's open it again. So the F-150 Lightning and most other vehicles with a frunk actually have an emergency pull bar, or actually sort of tag down here. So if you can see driver's side, here we are, F-150 Lightning. Driver's side down here, you've got this little guy right here. You can actually open this up and give it a pull. Now, when I did this opens the latch, okay? But it actually, mine had been jammed by my frequently trying to shut the frunk. Okay, so it had opened only partially. Okay, so if that happens, you can actually go up to the latch button here, or the actual latch itself. You can see it's wide open. In my case, it was about half shut. okay, and it was stuck. You see, I had to move it there. So basically, what happened was, with it half shut and stuck in that position, the frunk was still bouncing off of it. It was actually not closing still. So I was getting super frustrated. And because I was getting super frustrated and I was late for an event, I sent my son with his friend to get to that event in another car, and I had to sit and try to figure this out. Now, I tried to drive with it, which again is where I had the frunk fly up like this and then had to pull right over, because obviously that's dangerous. And then I figured out a solution. I had a tie in the car, and I was able to actually tie the rope from this hook here, which allowed me to tie it down to these hitches down here on the front of the vehicle so it wouldn't fly open on me. So that actually worked out in the end to allow me to drive around the corner. Now again, I was only driving 2 or 3 streets. If you're driving on the highway or you're driving somewhere far, do not do that. That is still too dangerous in case it comes undone and flies up. But for me, it allowed me to get around the corner where I needed to go to try and figure this out. And then when we figured out that the latch just hadn't opened enough, we did exactly what I did when I stuck my finger in here and I pushed it open so that the front could actually shut on its own. Again, a couple of cautions with that. If somebody has your keys, for example, so luckily make sure you have the keys. I have the keys here. If somebody has your keys and hits that front button, that latch is going to close on your finger, okay? Or it's going to try to. So make sure that you have the keys, or somebody is not sitting in the front driver's seat with the other front open button hitting that while you're messing around with the latch. So my solution to that was, if the latch didn't open fully, you can get your finger down there and open it. And then once that latch is open, you can and should be able to shut the frunk. Now, one of the things you may want to do here is do it manually, because if the frunk has forgotten that it's open, you need to let it think that it's closed, or it has to actually be closed, and that'll reset things. So you may have to manually shut this, and it will lock even manually if you do it correctly, okay? But you got to make sure this latch is open. So that's how to solve your frunk stuck open problems. It's a latch thing. There's also the emergency latch pull in the front of the seat, and when you do it right, your frunk should successfully come all the way down and latch shut when it closes. There you go, all fixed.